The performance of decline, Donald Trump, age, and the limits of political denial. In American politics, aging is tolerated until it becomes undeniable. Then it is moralized, politicized, and finally weaponized. It is not treated as a biological fact but as a partisan resource. The spectacle surrounding the health and temperament of President Donald Trump illustrates how thoroughly this transformation has taken hold. What was once a private matter between doctor and patient has become a public referendum on legitimacy itself. A recent Reuters, Ipsos poll suggests that most Americans now believe Mr. Trump has become more erratic with age. Nearly half doubt his mental sharpness. Almost 8 in 10 think Washington is run by people who are too old to represent them. These numbers are not merely diagnostic. They are symptomatic. They reveal a political system that has lost its ability to manage generational transition and now substitutes denial for renewal. America has entered an era in which power is increasingly exercised by leaders who are physically present but temporally out of place. The future is being governed by men whose formative experiences belong to the Cold War, whose instincts were shaped by television rather than algorithms, and whose authority rests on reputations constructed decades earlier. In this environment, aging is no longer incidental. It is structural. Mr. Trump's predicament is therefore not simply personal. It is institutional. His second presidency has become a test case for how long performance can substitute for capacity, and how far loyalty can suppress doubt. The arithmetic of power. The United States now treats longevity as a political qualification. The longer a politician survives electoral cycles, scandals, and internal revolts, the more indispensable he appears. Experience is conflated with permanence. Familiarity is mistaken for competence. Mr. Trump embodies this logic in exaggerated form. He returned to office at 78, becoming the oldest person ever inaugurated president. He is now poised to surpass his predecessor, Joe Biden, who left office at 82 under a cloud of anxiety. Between them, the two men have normalized octogenarian leadership. What once seemed exceptional has become routine. America's electorate has been conditioned to choose between aging titans rather than emerging successors, yet this normalization has produced uneasiness. Voters increasingly sense that something is amiss. The Reuters Ipsos survey, conducted in February, found that 61% believe Mr. Trump has grown more erratic with age. Only 45% consider him mentally sharp enough for the job. Even among independents, doubts outweigh confidence. At the same time, most Republicans insist that nothing is wrong. 81% regard him as fully capable. This divergence is not statistical noise. It is ideological filtering. Age is interpreted not as a physiological process but as a political narrative. In today's America, decline is something that happens to opponents. From statesman to spectacle, presidential aging was once managed through ritual. Franklin Roosevelt concealed paralysis. Ronald Reagan's lapses were politely ignored. The myth of vigor was preserved through choreography and discretion. Mr. Trump operates in a different ecosystem. He rose to prominence as a reality television performer, not as a party apparatchik. His authority has always been theatrical. He does not govern so much as perform governance. His rallies, speeches, and social media interventions are not vehicles for policy. They are reaffirmations of presence. They exist to demonstrate that he is still dominant, still combative, still indispensable. This makes aging uniquely threatening. It erodes the very currency on which his power rests. Recent footage of Mr. Trump struggling slightly on a step circulated widely online. In earlier eras, such images might have been dismissed as trivial. Today, they are forensic evidence. Every stumble, pause, or verbal detour is catalogued and circulated. According to reporting by the New York Times, his second-term schedule features fewer public appearances and less domestic travel than his first. He is said to fall asleep occasionally during meetings. His inner circle insists this is exaggerated. He himself claims he merely closes his eyes out of boredom. Both explanations point in the same direction. Governance has become an inconvenience, transparency as threat. Modern democracies celebrate transparency in theory and resist it in practice. Nowhere is this more apparent than in matters of health. After being diagnosed with chronic venous insufficiency, Mr. Trump publicly regretted undergoing an MRI scan. He blamed his doctors for inviting speculation. Testing, in his view, was a strategic error. This reaction reveals much. Medical scrutiny is perceived not as protection but as vulnerability. Disclosure becomes betrayal. Expertise becomes suspect. This hostility to oversight is consistent with Mr. Trump's broader political style. He has always treated independent institutions, courts, regulators, journalists, scientists, as hostile actors. Medicine is merely the latest frontier. Opacity, for him, is strength. The loyalist filter. Supporters of aging leaders face a dilemma. To acknowledge decline is to invite replacement. To deny it is to risk institutional decay. In polarized systems, denial usually prevails. Mr. Trump's allies illustrate this pattern. Secretary of State Marco Rubio describes him as too healthy and too active. Conservative commentators reframe concern as admiration. Even mild criticism is couched in loyalty, yet cracks are visible. Megyn Kelly, a sympathetic voice, has spoken of rambling in senior moments. Such remarks are carefully calibrated. They signal discomfort without challenging authority. The party is engaged in collective self-hypnosis.
Mr. President,
Doubt is acknowledged only in fragments, never assembled into a diagnosis. The poll as mirror, the Reuters Ipsos survey, conducted by Reuters, offers a snapshot of this psychological landscape. Its most striking finding is not partisan divergence but generational pessimism. 79% of respondents believe Washington is run by people too old to represent them. This sentiment cuts across party lines, yet voters continue to elect the same figures. This contradiction reveals a failure of incentives. Primaries reward name recognition. Fundraising networks favor incumbents. Media attention gravitates towards familiar personalities. Newcomers struggle to break through. The system selects for endurance, not adaptability. The shadow of Biden. Mr. Trump's aging cannot be understood in isolation. It is inseparable from the fate of Mr. Biden. Mr. Biden's decline was framed as tragic and institutional. His party agonized publicly over succession. His withdrawal was slow and painful. It was presented as a reluctant concession to reality. Mr. Trump's decline is framed as defiant and personal. He treats doubt as treason. He refuses the language of limitation, where Mr. Biden was portrayed as fading. Mr. Trump portrays himself as besieged. This distinction matters. It shapes how supporters interpret evidence. Mr. Biden's lapses were seen as proof of weakness. Mr. Trump's lapses are reinterpreted as proof of persecution, volatility as governance. Observers increasingly describe Mr. Trump's presidency as erratic. The term is imprecise but revealing. It captures oscillation rather than collapse. Periods of frenetic activity are followed by withdrawal. Bombastic declarations alternate with silence. Policy is improvised, abandoned, revived, and contradicted. This is not necessarily pathology. It is what happens when governance relies on personal energy rather than institutional routines. As that energy fluctuates, so does the state. Staff adapt by compensating. Advisors filter information. Cabinet secretaries manage crises autonomously. Informal networks expand. The presidency becomes decentralized by exhaustion. The gerontocratic drift. America is becoming a gerontocracy without admitting it. Its most powerful offices are dominated by men in their late 70s and 80s. Its legislative leadership is similarly aged. This is not the result of cultural reverence for elders. It is the consequence of political sclerosis. Young leaders lack donor access. Middle-aged leaders lack visibility. Parties cling to proven brands. The result is stagnation disguised as stability. Media and the monetization of decline. Modern media do not merely report on aging leaders. They monetize them. Every stumble becomes content. Every verbal misfire becomes a clip. Decline is packaged as entertainment. This creates perverse incentives. Outrage generates clicks. Controversy generates revenue. Editors hesitate to marginalize figures who drive traffic. Mr. Trump remains commercially valuable. His volatility is profitable. So long as this remains true, institutional discomfort will be overridden by market logic, biology, and belief. Human aging follows predictable patterns. Reaction times are slow. Sleep patterns shift. Attention wanes. Memory becomes less dependable. These processes are universal. What varies is how societies accommodate them. In American politics, they are denied. Supporters insist that their champion is exceptional. Critics insist that he is incapacitated. Both exaggerate. Reality occupies an uncomfortable middle ground. Mr. Trump is neither fully incapacitated nor fully unaffected. He is an aging man exercising extraordinary power in a system designed for younger bodies. This mismatch is the real problem. The failure of succession. Healthy political systems cultivate successors. They institutionalize transition. They reward renewal. America does neither. Mr. Trump has systematically prevented the emergence of heirs. Potential rivals are humiliated, expelled, or co-opted. Loyalty is valued over competence. The Republican Party has become a personal franchise. As a result, the question of succession is postponed indefinitely. What happens after Mr. Trump is treated as taboo? This increases systemic risk, institutional erosion. When leaders age in office without clear transition mechanisms, institutions adapt defensively, bureaucracies become cautious. Officials delay decisions. Responsibility is diffused, policy becomes reactive, long-term planning suffers. Under Mr. Trump, this tendency has intensified. Strategic coherence has given way to tactical improvisation. Ministries hedge against presidential volatility. The state learns to work around its own head. Denial as strategy. Mr. Trump's response to health questions, calling them seditious, is not impulsive. It is strategic. By framing concern as subversion, he mobilizes loyalty. Doubt becomes betrayal. Inquiry becomes an attack. This strategy has worked for a decade. It still works, but it has diminishing returns. As evidence accumulates, repression becomes harder, reality leaks, the limits of performance. Performance can mask decline for a time. Charisma can compensate for fatigue. Volume can substitute for clarity. Eventually, however, performance collides with physics. No amount of branding can reverse aging. Mr. Trump's career has been a triumph of image over substance. His presidency tests how far that formula can be stretched. The answer is, extremely far, but not indefinitely. A system out of time. The deeper problem is not Mr. Trump's age. It is America's refusal to confront aging as a political variable. The country has created a system that rewards endurance, punishes renewal, and monetizes dysfunction. It produces leaders who cling to power because nothing prepares them to relinquish it. Mr. Trump is the most vivid expression of this pathology, not its cause. The coming reckoning. Biology is patience. It does not respond to polling, branding, or loyalty. Over time, it imposes limits. The question is whether America's institutions will adapt before those limits become destabilizing. So far, there is little evidence of preparation. Parties avoid the subject. The media sensationalizes it. Voters polarize around it. No one manages it. The irony of permanence. Mr. Trump has always promised to restore greatness. In practice, he has entrenched stagnation. His movement celebrates disruption but produces continuity. It denounces elites but entrenches gerontocracy. It worships vitality but elevates aging. The performance of strength masks institutional fragility. Conclusion. Power after time. The story of Mr. Trump's aging presidency is not primarily about health. It is about denial. It is about a political culture that cannot distinguish between loyalty and blindness, between experience and inertia, between endurance and decay. It is about a system that makes survival a success. Mr. Trump continues to command attention, loyalty, and fear. He remains formidable. But he is also finite, so is the system that sustains him. The true test of American democracy will not be whether it can tolerate aging leaders. It already does. It will be whether it can outgrow them. So far, it has not.